G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. I do hope you enjoyed today's content. Now sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie, and let's get right into it. Posted by a throwaway account, titled, "Am I the asshole for not giving my sister her wedding dress because she didn't invite my underage son? I, 40 male, have a sister, 30 female, who is getting married in a week. The groom proposed to her a year ago at a family dinner that left everyone speechless, but very happy for them as they are longtime companions. During this dinner, my sister asked my son, 17 male, to make her wedding dress. My son has always loved design and fashion. He took technical courses in these areas and sewing, and even his friends keep asking for his clothes because they are so beautiful. He agreed, but said that he needed time and that he would need her opinion constantly. At first, my sister was very annoying. My son drew about 50 dress designs in a month, and she only liked one, which he continued with. He sewed it with great quality fabric, which I paid for, as I wanted to get involved in a certain way. For 5 months, he made several adjustments to suit her wishes, as she always complained about something. After a while, he arrived at the final model, and it was just amazing. My mother cried seeing my sister in the dress, and I confess that I almost got emotional too. The problem was that last week my son came to talk to me about the wedding invitation that had not arrived for him, but for several other family members. I thought maybe he didn't need one, but it still felt weird. I messaged my sister, raising this issue, and she replied that she didn't want any underage people at her wedding because there would be alcohol. I asked if she was going to make an exception for my son, but she cut me off and said no. There are no children in our family. My son is the only minor, so I didn't see any sense in this rule for family members. And to make matters worse, my son was very sad and cried because he had spent months on this dress and couldn't go to the wedding. I was very upset and told my sister that she should look for another dress as soon as possible, as she would no longer wear the one that my son made. She called and yelled at me, saying I was being unreasonable and that I couldn't do this. My mother called me, saying that I should deliver the dress and follow the rules, but I didn't and hung up on her. And because of this, my family is divided. Many agree with me and condemn my sister's actions, saying that she could only make an exception, but another part says I'm unreasonable and I'm spoiling her big day. I don't think I'm being wrong, but just rational and paying her back in kind. So am I the asshole? I'm on your side for this one, OP. I do think you're being rational and paying her back in kind because, as you said, there are no other kids besides your son in this family. This rule doesn't apply to anyone but your son who made the wedding dress. She's not given any valid reason that makes me go to her side and consider her point of view in this one. I don't think there is a justification for these actions besides she's just a piece of shit, and that's kind of just how it is. If she's going to play hardball with the wedding invitation, then you have to play hardball with the wedding dress. Otherwise, you're just inviting them to walk all over you and inviting them in the future to continue walking all over you. And we do not negotiate with terrorists. That is a goddamn fact, alright, OP? Not the asshole. In the comments, ResDogs870 says, not the asshole. He should go and just wear the dress. OP responds, ha, that would definitely be unexpected. I'm sorry you're in this mess. This is one of the clearest cases of not the asshole I've ever seen. How cool that your son has that talent. You must be so proud. I hope this works out in a peaceful way, but rest assured that you were correct in this situation. Agreed if he can make a dress at 17 and usually be able to come to the wedding. Especially given all the time he has put into this. Sweetheart, sell the dress. I wish you could post a pic, but at 17, you designed and made this dress? Hell yeah! I hope you get a ton for it. Right? OP not the asshole. Personally, I'd offer your sister the chance to pay your son for his labor in design. He needs to crunch the numbers and give a price. She meets it? Cool. No? Huh, what a shame. Someone will pay for it. This is a great solution. She could get her dress, but it would no longer be a gift. If she wanted to treat her family relationships as transactional, let it be. But seriously, OP is not the asshole. He's clearly a very mature 17-year-old to be able to execute such a big project. The idea that he can't be there because alcohol will be served is about the weakest excuse I've ever heard. Dumbest excuse because it only applies to one family member. What an ungrateful sister. Artichoke8951 says, well, if he's not invited and he doesn't need to give a gift, she should pay for the dress, and if she doesn't, you are not the asshole. And it should be the full retail cost for a similar dress. Oh, I'd rather put a price tag on that thing that equates to how much she hurt her nephew, like $10K. If she doesn't like the price, she can find a different dress in a week. Update. First, I would like to thank all the comments and suggestions. I really didn't expect my post to resonate so much. I talked to my son about the suggestions you guys gave me, and he agreed to sell the dress at market price. He calculated the price of everything, and the value was quite high. We sent the proposal to my sister and she hated it. She said she couldn't afford it because it was too expensive, and it should be a gift because she is family. I responded by saying that it was too easy to say that she was family to get a free dress, but not enough to include my son. She cried on the call and begged me not to ruin her day. But I didn't call because that to me was bullshit. At no point did she offer to just let my son go or apologize for it. And for anyone who said that maybe she's homophobic, I'm not sure. But I think someone who could be influencing her is her fiancé, who is a Christian and has never been close to my son. However, I don't care if he's doing it or not. If she wants to exclude my son from this event, then she will also be cutting ties with me. And for those who are asking for a photo of the dress, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but my son didn't agree, and unfortunately, I won't post it because of that. If anything else happens, I'll let you know, but until then, thank you all. Our next post is by user Unprepared Duh, titled, Am I the asshole if I tell my daughter that grandma is ashamed of her race? I'm here because I genuinely don't know where else to turn. When I was 21, I had a one-night stand that resulted in my wonderful daughter. Her father ghosted me the day after we hooked up, and I decided to raise her as a single mom the day that I found out I was pregnant. Throughout my pregnancy, my best friend, we'll name him Sean, became my absolute rock. We grew closer as a result of it, and he was even there when I delivered my daughter. We became a couple 6 months into my pregnancy, and he officially adopted my daughter 3 years after she was born. We've been together for 7 years, married for 1, and have recently found out we're expecting our first baby. However, this has caused some tension from his family. His family are black, and while most of them have been great, his mother, my mother-in-law, did not support our relationship, especially his choice to adopt our daughter. She refuses to acknowledge my daughter and corrects her every time she calls her grandma. Since finding out we're pregnant, she has been going around telling everyone she is expecting her first grandchild and how we're going to be a real family. My husband just ignores her because this is just what she does. However, it all came to a head recently when she said she would happily babysit our new baby, but wouldn't want our daughter around. When I asked why, she started saying how embarrassing it is for her and her son to be seen with a white child that clearly isn't theirs, and that she will never be a part of their family. Since then, she's been texting updates regarding her grandbaby. I refuse to speak to her, but my daughter keeps asking why she doesn't get to speak to her grandma. I feel so ashamed to tell her that grandma doesn't like her because of her race. I just don't see why she can't be fully accepted and a part of a family just because she's white. I want to tell her the truth and go low contact with my mother-in-law, but my husband said that I would be an asshole if I told my daughter what my mother-in-law has been saying. Would I be the asshole if I told my daughter her grandma is ashamed of her race? Kind of, yeah, honestly, because this is way too young to be telling your daughter that. For me, this kind of falls in a similar vein of, parents that would bully their children to prepare them for the real world. Because, if you're not ready for the real world, you're not going to be able to face what's out there. We gotta harden you up for that. Like, no, not at all. That's antithetical to what we're going for here. You're supposed to be harboring a safe space for your child to let them know that, hey, you might get beat up out there, you might get roughed up, but if you come back here, you're loved, you're safe, you can reset, relax, rewind. We are not going to antagonize you, and we're not going to make you feel unwanted. I feel like if you do tell your daughter that, especially at this young age, you're setting her up for failure. You're setting her up for a lot of trauma that doesn't need to exist right now. If she remains in contact with this grandma, I feel like it's inevitable that something like that will arise in the future, but the longer that you can delay it and prepare her for something like that, just slowly easing her into it, to be like, hey, grandma's an asshole. She's gonna be mean, and I'm here for you if she upsets you. That is if you choose to remain in contact, but if I were in your shoes, I wouldn't let that happen. But, as it stands, I think it's an everyone sucks here situation. In the comments, The White Wall is Blue says, you would be the asshole / everyone sucks here. Your daughter is about 7, right? She's too young to understand that grandma's attitude reflects badly on grandma and not on her. Tell her that grandma is being difficult or whatever other vague thing you like, but please do not go into detail until your daughter is older. Otherwise, your daughter may feel like she doesn't belong in the family because she doesn't look like everyone else. Also, you're the asshole and your husband for tolerating this for years. Holy shit, this is not okay behavior to expose your kid to. As someone who married into a black family, I don't know if it's all of them or just my in-laws, but you don't disrespect, correct, or argue with mother. I'm lucky. My mother-in-law is amazing, but it's still very ingrained that mother is sacred. Dude has been conditioned his whole life to go with what she says. That kind of mind control is hard to break. Honestly, that's a shitty excuse used by shitty people. If you choose to have kids, and by adopting, that is literally what this guy did, more so than if he'd been biological parents, you are responsible for them, and that includes protecting them by breaking the cycle of abuse if necessary, not for perpetuating it while whining, but it's hard. Tough shit. You're a grown-up who's chosen to take responsibility for raising a child. Stop throwing that child under the bus in favor of being a coward and avoiding conflict. No parent should use their kids as meat shields. Whoa. I'm not making excuses so much as putting an explanation out there as to why it's a thing. Dude needs to step the hell up, but if he doesn't, there is a lot of cultural programming to explain it, and he would have to be the one to begin the process. It's abuse. It's not cultural programming. It is abuse that has been hidden for generations under the guise of culture. I hate it when people use silly words for what is blatant abuse. Somewhere along the line, a narcissist in the family, culture, community decided that it would be easier to gain power if they guilt-tripped the hell out of everyone using their older age and experiences and called doing whatever they say and not questioning them respecting your elders. It's abuse. That's the real explanation. The family has been brainwashed to be enablers and accept abuse for entire generations. The abused grow older and continue to abuse because they see it as finally their time to not be abused. You know what shows respect for people? Clearly stating your boundaries and sticking to them. Clear communication and expecting people to act like the adults they are is respect. Everyone sucks here, except your poor daughter. I understand that your monster-in-law is horrible, but telling your daughter that grandma is ashamed of her race will destroy her. Please don't do this. Why isn't your husband defending you and his daughter too? This is only going to get worse from now on. What will happen when you have your new baby? Will your daughter be forgotten? He needs to be more assertive with his mother. I have no words for that vile woman. Always Stay Gold says, you would be the asshole. Your daughter is too young to understand, and all you would be doing is pointing out that she is different, and maybe even make her feel like she's not part of the family. Your husband should be dealing with his mother and reinforcing that your daughter is a part of his family. Also, mild the asshole for referring to your mother-in-law as grandma in front of your daughter. She has made it very clear that she doesn't want to be grandma to her, so you're only hurting your daughter by suggesting there should be a grandkid-grandma relationship between the two of them, when that's clearly not the case and never will be. Back up to the post, we have an edit. Wow, this blew up. Just thought I'd clarify a few things. My mother-in-law is of Caribbean descent, where nobody disrespects their elders. My husband has told me numerous times how she used to chase him around the house with a hairbrush if he raised his voice at her, so I suppose that's why he keeps saying to just ignore her. I know I probably would be an asshole, but I just don't know what to do. My daughter is such a people pleaser, and she makes so much effort to try and get her grandma to like her. She keeps asking what she can do to make grandma like her more, and it just breaks my heart. Also, to the woman that had the nerve to comment about the number of baby daddies I have, and how weird it looks having a white and mixed child, screw you. Edit 2. So I showed your responses to my husband, and we had a long talk about his family and our daughter. He agreed that the comments and her attitude have been out of order, and he has quietly been talking to my father-in-law to get her to stop. However, every time his dad brings it up, she either ignores him or completely blows up. I put my foot down and said I refuse to subject our daughter to this any longer, especially as her behavior is getting worse and she's already favoring the baby who isn't even here yet. I told him that this is going to damage our daughter in the long term, and if he doesn't do something about it, I will not let her see either of the children. He got a bit huffy at the idea of his father not seeing them, but agreed to speak to her tonight. He's completely on my side, but I think he's a bit scared of the woman. I don't know, I will update you with what happens. Update. So my husband called his mum and dad on FaceTime while I stayed out of view to make sure he said exactly what needed to be said. He explained that her behavior to our daughter is unacceptable and that it's not fair that she's subjecting her to this sort of treatment. He explained that if it was her biological grandson receiving this sort of treatment from my mum, she would be absolutely livid and be the first to call her a racist. What she was doing was no different. His father apologized and agreed with what he said. He tried to coax mother-in-law to apologize, but she huffed and said, "I have nothing to apologize for. That child is not ours and never will be." My husband and father-in-law both argued that she was being heartless, and my husband warned her if she continued to treat our daughter this way, she would not be allowed to see our baby. She flipped. She called me a lot of racist names I won't repeat on here. She also said she would see her grandbaby whether he liked it or not, that I was a bad influence, that I was manipulating him and turning her son against him. Eventually, my father-in-law apologized and ended the call. We had a sit-down with my daughter and explained that she couldn't see grandma because she was in a timeout. My daughter asked if it was because she says mean things, and we both said yes. She then asked, "When she comes out of timeout, can I see her again?" And I said, "Absolutely. Once she is out of timeout, you can go and visit with your new brother or sister." She seemed satisfied with that, as she then asked if she could go and play in the garden. My husband has since been texting our father-in-law, but she refuses to apologize. Until she does and takes steps to improving her behavior, she will not be allowed to visit. Thank you for all of your advice on the matter. We both agreed with a lot of the comments that now was not the time to bring her race up to our daughter, as she doesn't see herself as any different from her dad or his parents. She seems to be okay with it so far, although we are taking it day by day. Edit. I think I'm going to keep this account, as since I originally posted this a few days ago, there has been further developments which I feel I may need some advice on. Thank you for all of your help. In the comments, Philium96 says, "I'm heartbroken for your daughter. It's clear she loved her grandma, but you've handled this absolutely right. That racist doesn't deserve such a loving granddaughter. Best of luck to you going forward." I feel so much for her. Can you imagine loving a grandparent? Then your new sibling comes along, and your grandparent just pretends you don't exist anymore. Or worse yet, actively disparages you in favor of your new sibling. It would be devastating. It would also damage the relationship between the siblings to have that dynamic in place. Diaval15 says, "I unfortunately experienced this as a child. My nan was my stepfather's mum, and as soon as my younger brother was born, when I was 8, I had been told by her to only call her aunt and my granddad uncle. It was horrible, something I've never been able to forgive them for. Knowing that my brother was seen more favorably than me killed me, especially since we were very close beforehand. And then, when my brother was 5, my stepfather's sister had a kid, and suddenly my brother was ignored in favor of my cousin. If you can't tell, they're shitty people." Of Smut says, "As a biracial person with similar grandparent dynamics, this story absolutely broke my heart, and I really feel for your daughter and wish the best for her." I feel for her too. Our family dynamic is the opposite though. My mum's black family has always been pretty welcoming, but my white dad's family acts like we don't exist. Wanting people to acknowledge you when they absolutely won't is the worst and very harmful to be exposed to. Our next update is titled, Father-in-law left mother-in-law. Now the whole family is against us. So, since my previous update, she's thrown father-in-law out of the house for disrespecting her, and his sisters are now calling me, screaming at me for tearing their family apart. Father-in-law, who is now living with us, also warned me that she plans to seek legal advice to try and get custody of our baby, and threatened to hurt my husband if she ever saw him. I don't know what to do, and really need advice on how to handle the situation. I'm due to give birth next month, and the stress is really starting to get to me. Our next update is titled, Mother-in-law had our dog removed from our home and could potentially have put her to sleep. Today has been the absolute worst, and I've been an emotional wreck. We have a gorgeous 2-year-old Staffy Cross Lab who we've raised since she was 8 weeks old. She is my daughter's best friend, and she is like mine and hubby's second child. Dog owners will understand. Mother-in-law has blamed me for the breakdown of her marriage, the breakdown of her relationship with her son, and has turned his entire family against us. For 2 days, the calls had stopped, and I stupidly thought that everything was calming down. But oh boy, how wrong I was. This morning, we had a knock at the door from the police saying we had an illegal dog on the premises and that they needed to inspect it. They were told we had a pit bull and needed to inspect the dog. My husband let them in, and Zara, the dog, ran straight up to them, tail wagging, and so happy to meet new people. The officers took her measurements, which she happily let them do, and they said her measurements and appearances made were found to be similar to that of a pit bull, and they needed to take her away. My father-in-law and I both started arguing with them, explaining that she wasn't a pit bull and she was a lab mix. They asked us to give them a lead so they could take her for tests. They said if she was found to be an illegal breed, they would have to put her to sleep. Everything went to complete chaos, as you can imagine, but they did eventually take the dog away, and we are now facing a court battle to get her back. A few hours after they took her, my husband got a text from mother-in-law saying, "You take my grandbaby, I take your dog." My husband didn't respond, but went into a complete rage and stupidly broke his phone in the process. I feel absolutely heartbroken and am terrified they will kill our poor baby for absolutely no reason. Does anyone have any advice on how we can get our dog back? And now, onto the final update. Thank you everyone for your help. We have a busy day ahead of us and wanted to give a small update before we go completely radio silent while we deal with this. We got a call earlier this morning from the breeder. She was overly apologetic that this was happening and couldn't believe one of her puppies was being detained. I asked her if she had any pedigree papers for the Labrador, and here's where it gets interesting. She is a fully KC registered breeder. All of her Labradors have papers and certificates of their heritage. Her Staffy? She is also KC registered with the same information. She's emailing us the information over this morning, and we're heading down to the police station first thing. Thank you to everyone who has been so helpful and supportive of us. I'll make sure to keep you all updated when we finally get our baby girl home. In the comments, Training Constant 13 says, "It's truly insane to me that one would take so much hate out on an innocent child. It broke my heart when OP's daughter asked if her grandmother is in a timeout because she says mean things. This, to me, indicates that she's been directly rude to the daughter and insulting her when no one else is around to hear her. She's a nasty, awful woman and doesn't deserve to see any of her grandchildren. God knows she would try to poison the second child's mind against their sister." It definitely sounds like she was saying much worse than just correcting the little girl, calling her grandma when she could. Though that in itself is a really cruel rejection for a kid who has only ever known you as their grandma. I'm not entirely convinced that mother-in-law won't react badly to the new baby if they end up being visibly mixed race. I've heard a lot of really nasty behavior occurs from that, and this grandma seems exactly like the type to other kids for not presenting correctly with something they obviously can't control, in addition to being awful towards an adopted family member simply because of her skin color. I've seen this play out in reverse, and I saw the damage it did to my younger brother. My grandparents accepted him because he was adopted and shared our last name. but always made remarks about his race and skin tone. I'm glad Opie and her husband are putting their foot down. And yeah, that's the final update we have on this one, unfortunately. It is a grim and sad situation, and unfortunately it seems somewhat common that so many people share these experiences. My heart goes out for all of those that are listening to this that have been affected by similar issues, and I hope that you do help to break this cycle and not allow future generations to be hurt like you were. Grandma's actions here are completely unacceptable, and she deserves more than just being cut off from the family, I would feel like. Especially with this whole dog saga going on. Jesus, she is evil. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you today. I do hope you enjoyed the episode. Let me know what you thought of it down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.